The Sabrael Confession, The Heavenly War Chronicles, Book 1, by Stephen Smith, Chapter 10. I was to find there were actually 3 Jerusalems existing within the city walls. The first was that of the palace, the temple, and the homes of the wealthy. Herod's world of glittering gold and luxury. The second was the upper city, where expensive markets carved out a niche between extravagant homes and successful businesses. This Jerusalem belonged to the skilled workers and tradesmen, those who were not nobility but had money to spend. The shops were high class, and the fashions flaunted jewelry and fine materials. The third Jerusalem, however, was unlike the first two. The lower city running down the hillside and into the Tyropoean valley beneath the colossal man-made mountain known as the Temple Mount was largely ignored by Herod and his minions. Dirty and foul-smelling, this region sheltered those who either couldn't find work or worked in despised trades. The rest of Jerusalem towered over it, a natural reminder of its lowly status. It was there, in the shadow of wealth and power, I knew I would find my servants. Broken, dusty walkways descended to the valley floor between rows of tiny crowded homes bustling with activity. The order of the upper city streets was gone here. There were no paved roads, just worn pathways through the labyrinth of bleached and crumbling homes as far as I could see. The Temple Mount completely dominated the northeast horizon. Rising from the sprawl, unsure where to begin my search, I headed toward the single, gigantic landmark amidst the chaos. For 2 hours under the blazing sun I searched, hoping for a glimpse of Theocritus in the rising haze. It was futile. The lower city was just too big and disorienting. If I was ever going to locate him, I would need help. As I roamed the streets through, the residents of the lower city just stared at me as I passed. Whenever I approached anyone, they would retreat into their homes. It seemed ridiculous, but I realized what was happening. They were all afraid. Confused and frustrated, my patience finally expired when I reached the southern city wall. I thought I was walking in entirely the opposite direction. Built for the poor, the houses all looked the same, and the layout of the district was a jumbled mess. Retracing my steps, I headed back toward the Temple Mount, making sure to keep my eyes on it so I would not stray again. A hand suddenly clasped across my mouth, and the unmistakable edge of a dagger touched my throat, guiding me into a shallow alcove between 2 houses. "You move and this moves, understand?" a voice hissed into my ear as the dagger bit in. I nodded as much as I could. A pair of burly men stood before me, their faces not even covered. "Give us the money, and you get out of here without a new scar." "What money?" I asked the third man behind me. He said nothing, but used the dagger to slice the pouch from my belt. He tossed it to the burly men, who looked inside, then gave a disappointed look. Late start today, taxman? My captor said, or did you stash it somewhere? It would have been so easy to disappear into the spiritual plane, but we were supposed to blend in. Instead, I gathered matter into a handful of coins and let it fall to the ground. The three men dove for the gold, and free of their lethal grasp, I ran. My understanding of Theocritus's plight was becoming clearer by the moment, as was my resolve to get him out of this part of the city. The claustrophobic buildings soon gave way to the safety of a public marketplace at the base of the Temple Mount. There was nothing like the lavish markets of the upper city. Bruised and rotting fruit sat exposed to the midday sun. Flawed clothing and damaged goods lined every storefront. Packed with the poor, this market was far more crowded than those above. Entering the nearest shop, I choked on the air inside, heavy and rank with sweat. Cheap trinkets lined the walls. Inscriptions pronouncing this stone idol had come from Egypt, or that ring was once worn by an emperor from a land far to the east. A man in a turban sorted through a craft of new items, arranging them on the shelves. He grunted a hello at first, but after one look at my clothes, his attention was all mine. Welcome, my lord. Anything you desire, I promise I can procure. I am looking for a friend, and you have found one. Here, let me show you some of my most prized acquisitions. No, I am looking for a friend of mine and his wife. I came here to find them, but I was robbed, I said. The man laughed. In the Weaver district? You are surprised? That place is a den of thieves who will steal the clothes off your back given the chance. Perhaps if people helped them instead of offering only scorn, I said, not liking the tone of his voice. He shrugged. The king allows a select few to live on relief at the city's expense, if they can earn it. Others he purchases from their families to become servants in the palace. Opportunities exist, but most are ungrateful for the king's charity. You call such things charities? What would you call them? Herod could just as easily do nothing. The man must have noticed my expression, for he added, it is their choice to remain. When Herod sends his men to offer these people a way out, they hide like beetles scurrying from the light. Not all of them, I thought, rubbing my throat. Do you at least know your way around? I can pay you to guide me. Sorry, this store is as close as I go. If your friend is truly living out there, I say leave him. Better for you, I think, than to meet the wrong customer there and never return. I stepped out into the sunlight again, grateful to get away from the man. I thought humans would be compassionate, show a sense of brotherhood as we did in heaven. There was no respect here, no compassion. The shopkeeper was no different than Irenaeus or the muggers, self-serving and arrogant. I headed back into the Weaver district, irritated at my tremendous failure so far. Perhaps I should just wait for nightfall when Theocritus's wife would take her place at the palace square. At least I knew where that was. But just as I decided to head back to the palace, two women emerged from a house ahead, and the older one froze as she saw me. I thought she would run back inside, and so, as so many had earlier, but to my amazement she nearly knocked over her younger companion in her haste to greet me. Good day, Lord. What a treat to welcome such fine company to our neighborhood. Is there anything we can do for you? I took the hand she offered. Her nails were stained black. I am looking for someone, a Greek named Theocritus. He is married, though I do not know his wife's name. Do you know them? The woman hesitated. I might. Why do you seek them? I intend to bring them to the king's palace, I answered. The younger woman straightened, and the older one yanked her hand away in disgust. Another one. Stay out of our district and tell that tyrant to leave us alone. How much more can he demand from those who have nothing to give? Confused, I pleaded with her. I'm not sure what you mean. I only want to invite Theocritus and his wife to join me in the palace as my guests. Guests? Theocritus paid me a kindness. I would simply like to return the favor. Visibly awed, the woman clapped her hands. Forgive me, Lord. I know them well. I saw Theocritus go to the marketplace only a short time ago, but perhaps Helena is still home. Before I could say another word, she pulled me into the cleft between two homes. The younger woman grabbed my other hand and trailed behind. I wasn't sure if I was only I wasn't sure if it was only our quick movements that made it seem so, but I could swear her thumb caressed my hand. The three of us wove through tight alleyways, taking blind turns where there were no markers or distinguishing signs. How did anyone find their way through such a place? It was maddening. We came at last to a house with just a sheet for a door. The older woman patted my hand and told me to wait before disappearing inside. As soon as she was gone, the younger woman's hand slid up my arm. I turned to find her large, brown eyes only inches away. Tell me, Lord, does a woman wait for you in the palace? She placed her other hand on my chest and moved even closer. Or do you require someone to take that position as well? I guided her hand from me. Forgive me, I said. Beauty such as yours is a delicacy from which I fear I am forbidden. She wrapped her arms around my neck, her breath stroking my lips. Who forbids such things? The king? He appreciates the embrace of a woman more than most. If it is God you fear, do not worry. Did he not create woman to answer man's need for a companion? The stench of her perspiration was unbearable. Her blackened teeth, the holes in her clothing. Indeed, he did intend companionship for you, us, but within the bonds of marriage. My work does not allow such ties. Undaunted, she slowly slid her hands down my body. Perhaps you work too much. The older woman emerged from the doorway. You may enter, Lord. Helena is eager to meet you, she said. Thank you, I said, relieved, and pulled away from the younger woman. The older woman casually extended her hand and replied, It was our pleasure, Lord. Understanding, I slipped her a few coins and stepped quickly inside, but not fast enough to miss hearing the younger woman scolding her mother for not giving her enough time. Theocritus's entire house, if it could be called such a thing, could have fit in one corner of my palace apartment. A bed of matted straw lay against one wall, a small table with a bowl of moldy fruit beside it. Three charcoal drawings hung on the wall, beautifully rendered scenes of the city. A woman sat before a loom, standing upright against the wall, expertly weaving threads into a rug, though her dress was tattered and dirty. A tight band held her dark hair, only a few loose curls spilling over. She turned to face me and, taking my hands into hers, kissed them gently. Welcome, Lord, though I wish it was to somewhere more befitting your company. A truly welcoming smile is all the luxury I need. The woman smiled, though she seemed confused. I am Helena. Theocritus is my husband. You are welcome to wait for his return, if you desire. Her small chin and large eyes gave her almost an adolescent appearance, but the curves of her body spoke otherwise. I found it oddly difficult to look away from her. She scratched at her thumbnail, avoiding my gaze. A small stack of blankets lay beside the loom, snippets of yarn strewn about the floor. Forcing the words from my dry throat, I said, "Forgive me. Have I interrupted your work? I can look for Theocritus in the marketplace if you need to return to it." Helena shook her head and put a hand on my forearm. No, no, I would not force you into the hot sun again. I can work while you wait. Your company is most welcome. As she turned back to her tools, I felt a sudden yearning unlike anything I had ever felt. Perhaps you would come with me then? I have seen only a corner of the marketplace and would enjoy learning to navigate it. If you would be my guide, perhaps we can find Theocritus together. Helena smiled at me. I really must continue my working. I must finish 2 more blankets before it is time to go to the palace square. Her eyes darted to the floor. Clearly, she had not intended to mention the couple's main source of income. I tried to dispel her embarrassment. It's all right, Helena. There is no need to be ashamed. Where do you think I met Theocritus? Her gaze returned to me, wider than before. You? You are Aegeus, the Athenian? The change in her demeanor was instant. Oh, Lord Aegeus, forgive me. I thought you a tax collector with clothes like that, and no one has ever seen you before. My strange encounters with the lower city residents suddenly made sense. As you can see, we have nothing to give, and the season is almost over. I gave Theocritus a small sum of money just last night. What happened to that? Helena laughed, a sound I would have thought impossible only moments ago. Small? We have not seen such money since coming here. Were the collectors to find it, we would be put to death for not giving tribute to the king. Theocritus came home only to tell me of your kindness, then went to spend it right away. I couldn't believe this was the same woman. I do not understand. Only a moment ago you were so sad, so full of distress. Helena solemnly took my hand. Please forgive me. The collectors sometimes take pity on those in the worst need. I am sorry if I misled you. Had I known who you are, I would have greeted you differently. But the woman who led me here, she did not tell you? Oh. All Ruth said was that a man from the palace was searching for Theocritus. You must not be angry with her. She has been trying to marry her daughter off to nobility for many years. I felt a twinge of disappointment. Here I thought the younger woman's advances had been genuine. If I were to ask you and Theocritus to accompany me back to the palace, to live with me there, would you consider it? Helena's hands rose to her chest. Is that why you are looking for Theocritus? It is. I would be greatly honored to open my home to both of you. You only just met us. How do you know you can trust us? I was sure her que- I was sure her real question was actually, how did they know they could trust me? I am new to Jerusalem and overwhelmed already. I need someone to teach me the customs and apparently how to find my way around the city. Those I have met in the palace are of questionable character, but last night Theocritus helped me without asking anything in return. When he told me he's Athenian, I knew there would be no one I could trust more. You want us to stay in the palace as your guests? She asked. Yes, I replied. Only those living there believe I am retrieving two of my servants right now. If you join me, it must be in the guise of personal attendants. I apologize for that, but when this opportunity arose, I thought it the best I could do for you. She threw her arms around me. I do not know how to thank you. I smiled and said, You do not need to thank me, Helena. I only ask that you accept my invitation and let me take you from this place. Tight in her embrace, I felt the strange yearning again, almost a compulsion. Her skin was so warm. Pulling me up, Helena wrapped a bundle of clothes into a bedsheet and pulled a few rolls of canvas from beneath the mattress. Let us go right now, she said, and pulled me toward the door.